Little did you know when I was talking about getting back to basics, I meant big basic toys. Or maybe you figured it out. I don't know. But yes, okay. The the flip change, or rather power flip Optimus Prime, the Transformers one, where it's trying to find, yes, the Transformers one power flip Optimus Prime. That's what it was called. That figure made me realize that there is still value in the simpler, definitely for kids gimmick toys. A lot of them aren't great, or at least they don't appeal to me. But some of them are actually pretty cool, including Power Flip Optimus Prime. And Rise of the Beast Mode Bumblebee here is actually a figure that I've had my eye on, believe it or not, for a pretty decent amount of time. I know it's pretty simple. It has laughable posability. And there are definitely a lot of things about it that could use improvement. But, like, I still was really drawn in by, well, I'll say it, by the gimmick. And I thought, it looks like a nice, big, chunky vehicle, nice, big, chunky robot. So I was able to get one from Amazon, of all things. They had it on pretty significant sale because the box was damaged, and it's like, well, who cares? It's just the box. So yeah, I have the figure now, and it's, for what it is, I actually like this a lot. It is very basic, very limited in a lot of ways, but like there's something to these bigger gimmicky toys. A lot of them have really nice sturdy plastic, and they have these like okay, the transformation is a big deal on Transformers. Obviously, we all know this, or at least most of us understand this. But like toys like this and Power Flip Optimus Prime, there's something to those transformations that I don't really get from other transformations. Like, as much as I enjoy transforming certain figures back and forth, they don't quite have the same, there's a certain element to these that those figures do not possess. And that's the tactile feel of the transformation. It's not just, oh, that's clever engineering. Like, the puzzle play of a regular Transformer is something I enjoy immensely. I feel like that comes through in a lot of my videos where I'll talk about the engineering and certain things that really impress me or excite me. But these big toys have this tactile element that those other figures just don't. Because they're big and chunky and you're moving these big clunky pieces around, and the way they like snap closed and into place is just very satisfying. It's an entirely different thing that these toys have gotten me to appreciate in terms of transforming figures. And it's something that, as I said, with like the smaller figures, Studio Series, Legacy, whatever, you don't get that as much. So it's something that I just have come to really value from these kinds of figures, and this figure, no exception. That said, I also did get this figure as a kind of project. It's not anything I'm doing right now. I'm hoping at some point in the future I'll get around to doing it, but basically what I want to do is do a custom paint on this figure, because I feel like a little bit of paint would go a long way. It's not going to make the toes sticking out of the back disappear, but like, I could do a little bit of paint for the taillights here, maybe do the rear bumper here so that it matches the front. Here's a sword that's just on, but I could potentially paint parts of the sword, make that look a little bit nicer. Do some more detailing, like maybe the little grid section for the rear windshield. There's just little bits that I think could really benefit from some added paint that would really make this figure pop, especially in robot mode, and I just feel like it'd be a worthwhile project. And as I said, like, again, getting back to the tactile nature, like this is a satisfying figure to hold. Like, just holding it in my hand, this feels substantial and sturdy and solid and just kind of fun. It's the kind of thing where it feels like it feels like a kid's toy, like just the kind of thing that you would drive around, just like around the house or apartment or whatever as a kid. Even though there's a very obvious robot tucked in there, but like it feels good. I don't know how else to phrase this. It's just yeah, it's all very tactile with this, as I've said. But you do get some paint in this mode. You know, you get the stripes on the hood, the blue for the headlights, the black for the front bumper that goes around the sides and along the trim here, which is nice. It just doesn't continue around to the back. In fact, the paint kind of stops in the vehicle mode about here, because you get a little bit here. But then you have the clear bits that have been painted yellow, and like, I don't like this. They painted the bars up here, which is nice, but like, this could have been yellow plastic. I think the reason they didn't paint it is because this has lights and sounds, and you can kind of see the lights through the windshield, but it's like the lights really are designed to come through here, so it's more of an after effect than anything. I feel like this is the kind of clear plastic where all you're getting is just a look at a bunch of robot junk crammed in there. So yeah, that would have been better if this was just yellow plastic rather than being painted yellow, because this yellow does not match the plastic at all. It looks like a closer match on camera, but in person, this yellow and this yellow are very different from this yellow. So yeah, that just kind of irritates me, but that's kind of an ongoing thing with Transformers toys these days.
So just like Power Flip Optimus Prime, this is another lights and sounds toy, and because of that, I can't really rely on my usual microphone setup for that. Fortunately, I knew in advance going in, so I've got the same filming setup, I'm just using a different microphone. So yeah, there's, to do the lights and sounds on this guy, there's just a little button on top, you push that, and it does the lights and sounds, and you get... And I believe that's all the sounds that this guy does. There is a blue light that comes through the bottom here. And you get to see a little of it through the top here. Let me turn off the lights a little bit to see if that helps to have the actual lights visible. You can kind of see it underneath there and a little bit coming through the top, but it ain't great.
And as we saw, it comes with a sword, and that can plug in onto the side here to just kind of get it out of the way, and it doesn't look great from this side, but it can kind of hide from certain angles, and I wish it could plug in down here somewhere, but it can't. So we'll leave this off to the side for now and just move on to size comparisons, and then on to the kind of stuff that I really enjoy about this figure. So here is Dinobot. As I said, this is a big figure. So there's Dinobot, Ova Prime, and Samus. And this is already looking gigantic in comparison. And we'll get them out of the way, bring in Burnout. And yeah, compared to a more current contemporary deluxe, B is massive. Because again, this is a large kid's toy. We'll bring in another contemporary B. Here he is with Studio Series 86 Bumblebee, the one that actually works now because I got a replacement. And yeah, way bigger. And because I was talking about him before, we'll bring in Power Flip Optimus Prime from Transformers 1. And these are a bit more... They're not exactly in scale, especially because this is a, Cybertronian pseudo-truck mode. And I feel like this is ultimately, even with the feet sticking out the back, this is a more successful alt mode in that this one is just like right up front. It's just, obvious robot pelvis. But they're roughly the same, like, mass and density. I think Power Flip Prime is a little bit denser, but also he does more. But yeah, that's how they stack up to one another. And finally, here is Beast Mode Bumblebee with the duck tank. Alright, so real quick before we transform B into B, if you like this video or any other video that I've done on the channel and you'd like to support me, I have a Patreon or Coffee link to both at the end of the description as well as, or at the end of the video rather, as well as down in the description. Otherwise, you could always do the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now to transform this guy, he's actually surprisingly solid in the way he transforms. Like a lot of stuff really locks in place in both modes. So to start, I'm going to split down the center here, so just kind of pull out like this to split all that apart. With that done, now we can get these flaps up, and they actually tab in down here, so you kind of want to pull out and back a little bit, because you can see this little tab right there that tucks in back there. So you pull that out, and then you can swing this up. And with that done, and separate these pieces, and there's also like a little tab here. It's clear, so it's hard to see, but there's a little tab right here that goes in there. So untap that, and then accordion this down. That'll kind of plug in like that. Then with that untabbed and all accordioned, you want to pull the knee this way, and that will unclip it from here. Whoop. And with that unclipped, this comes down, and basically what happens is this gray strut locks in place here in this position, and then there's a little there's a good angle here. There's a little clip here and a little post here that'll clip together for the front, and that straightens out the leg. Now this entire assembly will come forward, and this tab here will tab into a slot right here on the outside of the legs. This comes around, and then we'll tab in. There we go. And finally, for the foot, you bring the foot down. You want to do the foot last, but you bring the foot down, and it will click into place. And what happens is there's this little tab section here actually sits inside this little notch right here. So as you bring that down, it settles in there, and this locks that foot. So that's not going to go anywhere. And when you want to transform it back, you just kind of push in a little bit to push that tab past that piece, then you can straighten the foot back out again. It's easier, like going this way, you can just pull it and it'll latch in place, but going back into vehicle mode, you want to squeeze that to bring it back down. And that's one leg done in its entirety. This side's same deal. You just want to kind of pull back and out a little bit so you can get that tab separated. Pull this back. And we'll straighten out the leg first so I can show you this a little bit more detail. So pull this out. So untab it from here. Stretch all this down and lock that in place. Lock that in place. This side is not as solid in either direction. I don't know why this side tabs in much more securely here than here, but whatever. Now, to show it from this angle, this untabs, and then you can see there's all of these bits here that accordion around. So these come down, and there's this tab right here that will actually tab into this slot here. So when you accordion this down, that will plug in there, and that helps to kind of keep this from flopping around. And now that that's done, once again, this swings around, and this will tab into the side of the leg. That will help to lock all that together. And you bring the foot down, and it again kind of clips in place there. And then you've got a very solid standing base. He doesn't have heels per se, but it actually stands pretty well. Okay, now for the rest of them, the upper body, you want to pull the fists a little bit because they actually peg over these, the fists actually grip these little pegs here, but you kind of pull those out, and then you can kind of bring the arms up and out a little bit. There you can see the pegs. Oh, actually, I did that wrong. What you actually want to do first is you want to rotate this section just a little bit because there's a tab here that tabs up in there. And once you rotate that out, then you can unpeg the arms and unpeg. Like this doesn't really peg in. They more like just kind of rest over them, but you can get them removed from there. And now you want to take this entire shoulder assembly and it actually unplugs from here. There's this tab here that actually plugs in right there. And it is, again, very secure when you get it plugged in for vehicle mode. So you untab it and bring all that out. And again, unclip it, bring it out. And now we've got this going on. You want to pull this section. You can see how it obviously separates for the hood. You want to pull this section out and rotate it down, and it will clip down. And once that clips down, what you want to do is you take this piece here that was pulled out from the from the inside of the hood section, and now that same tab that was plugged in on the underside of the hood will tab in here, and it will tab in like it's very solid, but it tabs in, and once it's clipped in, this piece is not going anywhere. That is solid. This guy is not coming. This guy is not coming apart once that's all locked in. So again, untab this, and if we look at it from this angle, you can kind of see how it pegs in here, but there are also these two smaller tabs that tab in down here. So bring this down and clip it in, then bring this down and make sure that clips in around back. And again, once that's clipped in, this is not going anywhere. He is dead solid. And finally, let's just bring some of this down a bit. Finally, the last thing to do is take this last piece of the hood, and this folds back on a double hinge, and there's a little like peggy tab thing here that pegs in right here. And it's not like super solid, but it's not like flopping out. And that just kind of cleans up the back a bit, gets things out of the way. And as an added bonus, it covers up the button that you could accidentally press for the car mode, because this button makes car mode sounds, and this little piece here makes robot mode sounds. So you cover this up, and you're not going to accidentally push the car mode button. And there we have Beast Mode Bumblebee in his robot mode, and this is actually a pretty decent looking Bumblebee. Yes, it is definitely lacking in paint and articulation, and kibble-wise, he's got a good amount of car just sitting on the backs of his calves. But like, all things considered, this is actually pretty solid. It's unfortunate that the legs don't really do anything. Like, you can't really move them because those transformation joints are just for transformation. So like, if you unpeg it, you can kind of get a knee bend, kind of, but like that doesn't really accomplish anything. And you can kind of bring it forward here, but like he has no hips. So, and you can't go out. He doesn't have thigh swivels. Thigh swivels at least would have been nice, but whatever. But he's got a very solid standing base because of how all that's designed. But yeah, you can't really do anything there. And like, all of the paint, well, almost all of the paint went to the vehicle mode. For the robot mode, you get a little bit of silver on the sides of the arms, and then of course the paint on the face. And that's it. There is no more paint that's devoted to the robot mode here. And that's kind of a shame. But this is kind of what I was saying, how I feel like this could really benefit from a little bit of a custom paint job, because I feel like just a little bit more paint on this guy would really make a lot of these details stand out, because he is molded really well. There's a lot of really nice detail in the shins and feet, like right in here, and I just can see like some tubes and gears and whatnot going up through here. He's got like the proper thigh plating and whatnot. He's got we got the arm kind of rotated out of the way. You can see underneath here he's actually got a good amount of sculpted detail. It almost looks like engine stuff. And the midsection has some nice molding as well. The arms are nicely molded. The fists are nicely molded. Like, there's some really nice molding going on throughout this entire figure. You just kind of don't see any of it because this is big I don't know, statue of yellow and gray with a little bit of black and a little bit of blue. But I do think this actually, for what it is, looks cool. Chest is a cheat, or the center of the chest is a cheat, because it's actually right around back here, but still. It's, for what it is, a neat looking Bumblebee. I do like this. Now the head is a Bumblebee head. I think the sculpt is there, and it's nice that they painted the face that kind of silvery color and they got the eyes as blue, but I feel like he needs more. He needs a little bit more in some of these crevices and stuff to really bring out those details. He's got the space for the Autobot insignia up there, but it's not actually sculpted in, which is a little weird. Because looking at how intricate they got the sculpting on the eyes, I feel like they could have sculpted that as an Autobot badge. I don't know why they didn't. Maybe it has something to do with, like, this is the point in the movie where Scourge took his Autobot badge. I don't know. But, it is what it is. I've never been the biggest fan of this head design for Bumblebee either, but the sculpting is there, and I feel like a little bit of extra paint would help. Now for articulation, this guy does have some. The head does rotate and do a full 360, and it is very hollow around the back, which is a shame, but it's also a giant kid's toy, so whatever. You're not going to get super dynamic with this guy, so I feel like you're not really going to be seeing the back of his head anyway, and you kind of have to angle it pretty far around in order to see that in the first place. But yeah, you got left and right tilt, that's it. No up and down, no side to side. The shoulders are ball jointed, so they can rotate all the way around, and they can go out to about there. If you disconnect that transformation joint, you can bring them out to 90, so that's something. But it is also nice that when that transformation joint is clicked in, it is not going to come out if you're just messing with it. It's in there solidly. I like that. The ball joint gives you a tiny bit of what could be generously called bicep swivel, because other than that, he doesn't have biceps. And you have a 90-degree bend at the elbow. And that's it. That is all that this toy does in terms of articulation. You do not get anything at the waist. You get absolutely nothing at the legs. He is entirely, or almost entirely, meant to be just a big, fun gimmick toy that is satisfying to transform back and forth. And as a toy with that stuff in mind, I feel like this toy actually does that very well. But this is definitely not something you get because you want to play with it as an action figure. But he's fine. He looks cool for what he is. He's got his sword, which is done in this translucent gray that kind of fades into blue. It's kind of a strange looking sword. I don't know what this is from. Maybe it's like a Prime Beast Hunters homage. I don't know. And this can go into either hand. Just plug it in, and he can hold it. And unfortunately, because of the limited posability, he can't really do much with it. You can just kind of be like, I guess if you want to unplug this, you can try and get a little bit creative with it. Like, he's doing a slash or something, but like, that's about as dynamic as he gets. Which again, it's fine. It's a kid's toy. It's a very, very kid's toy. And unfortunately, you don't really have anywhere to peg this elsewhere. I kind of think they missed an opportunity by having this. Maybe you could peg into like back of the wheel, or like having a thing where it could like settle up here or something like that. Or if it had like a little peg hole that you could peg it into this, I feel like that could work. And this kind of like it sits, but it's not on there. You could, I guess, sheath it in his shins, and then it kind of almost looks like it's at his side. I mean, heck, they could have even had like a peg hole down here for this to peg in, but nope. Best I've been able to manage is the peg hole that this was attached to in vehicle mode is still there and accessible, so you can peg the sword there, but that puts it like directly in line with the rest of the arm. So you can store it there. It's not the worst, but it does kind of get in the way of what little arm articulation you have if you decide to store the sword there. So just put it in his hand and kind of call it a day. But there is robot mode.
So in car mode, you got a blue light. In robot mode now, you get a red light. And since that button is blocked off, you get to use this button instead. So you push that and you get... Hey, sword sound. I think that's all the sounds you get. So not a whole lot, but you get some.
And size-wise, he's a big boy. We bring back Dinobot and Oval Prime and Samus. See, he is very big. Like, practically Tobot big. This is a big Bumblebee, which is one of the reasons why I'm not super bothered by the overall simplicity of the transformation or the, lack of paint detailing and stuff like that, because he's substantial for what he is. It also doesn't hurt that I ended up paying I think this was about like $30 because I got the damaged box version that was fine. Because the toy was fine, it was just the box that was damaged. But yeah, this is a big Bumblebee. I don't know if I'd feel the same about it if I got him brand new for like the normal $50 asking price. There is the Studio Series. He's a lot bigger there. But for what I paid, I'm actually very happy with this thing. And I think it's going to be a really fun project figure. And here he is with Power Flip Optimus Prime, or rather Orion Pax in this case. And let's get him Optimus primed up. For anyone who hasn't seen this figure, you should check out the video I did on this guy. I'm going to try to remember to put a link to the video up there. But this guy's actually a lot of fun to mess with. So we'll turn him into Optimus Prime real quick. There we go. And we'll just... you know what? He doesn't need this for his robot mode, so whatever. But yeah. And there he is with Power Flip Optimus Prime, and he is as tall, maybe just slightly shorter than the Optimus Prime mode of this figure. So there is that. And finally, and most importantly, here he is with the duck tank. And now, finally, we come to the last bit of what this figure does, which is another thing that, it's silly and ridiculous, but I actually really like it. And I do think it'd be just another fun aspect of eventually customizing this guy. So we actually get to do a little bit more with this guy. You want to flip up these forearm panels and flip out these claws. And that gives him these new, triple claw Wolverine-looking things. Okay, made this mistake real quick. You want to actually straighten the arms out, temporarily at least, or at least bring them forward. So make sure they're not in the way. And then squeeze his legs together, and you get... This is ridiculous, and I am so beyond here for it. I adore how silly, but also cool this is. It's definitely silly and ridiculous, but there's a pretty awesome aspect to it as well. It's a simple thing of just the claws flipping out, but I like how pushing the legs together, you get the wings that pop up, and the chest pops open and reveals the bird head, which I guess is supposed to be Air Razor. I don't know. But this is actually pretty cool. It integrates reasonably well with the robot. I don't know. I dig it. And you do get a little bit more paint here. You get the silver in the wings. You get just in the front. You don't get them... Oh, wait, no, you get them in the back, too. Okay. So you get silver in the wings. These look like they're clip... Oh, wow. I didn't even realize you could do that. They can unclip and angle back. Oh, I love this thing even more now. They're actually on little hinges. That's so cool. Okay. So yeah, they're silver on both sides with little struts, which is cool. You get actually a little bit of wing articulation, which I did not realize, because this is spring-loaded. You're not going to get much posability there, but like that's cool. You get the blue eyes and the yellow beak for the bird head. And this is just, it's very, very silly, but also really neat in its silliness. I like how this changes the silhouette a bit. And I am particularly enamored now with the fact that the wings can like get folded back a little bit. That's really cool. And you just get a lot of kinetic action by just pushing the legs together and watching all this stuff pop out. It's neat. I don't know. It's silly, but it's neat. And I think this thing's going to look so cool when it's all like painted up. Now this guy with the bird head flipped out, when you push the button, now the bird head itself is what's lighting up when you do the lights and sounds, as opposed to the inside of the chest lighting up.
I swear there's one more in here. There we go.
It also changes the sounds because now the bird head is out. Because the way they did it, it's actually really cool how they did this. It's very simple but cool, because what happens in slow motion is basically this separates, and this spring-loaded head kind of pushes the door down and flips out and like pushes this up, and then this comes back down, and then this closes back up. And these little clamps here keep this platform from going back up now that the legs are like, because this is spring loaded, so it'll snap back into place. But like this locks everything together, so you don't have to worry about it separating again. But what's cool about how this functions and the sounds change is basically there's this little button down in here. I'll zoom in here. So there's this little button down here. When we rotate bird head back, you might see this little head crest here pushes that button down. And when that button is pushed down, that's what tells it to do the regular robot mode sounds. So once that's pushed in, now you've got, regular Bumblebee sounds, but then doing this, suddenly that button is depressed, or rather released. And that tells it to now do the bird mode sounds or the beast mode sounds. And that changes up the sounds a bit. And it's just very cool how this all comes together. It's a simplistic, relatively speaking, toy, but like it's neat. It does a lot of cool stuff. Now, to put everything back, there's a little bit of nuance to putting the chest back together, but like this stuff is easy enough. You just fold the claws in like that. But to do this, if you have unclipped the wings, like I did, which again, just realized you could do, you want to straighten them back out, and they will tab down so that they don't move. You want to, first, you want to get the bird head in place. So you squeeze these apart, fold this up, rotate the bird head back, and then let this come back down. You want to make sure that this is keeping the bird head from flipping back around. Then you can flip this up, and then close this back up. And this will hold stuff into place, but also there are these little tabs on the sides of this yellow piece here that'll tab into the inside there. So you want to make sure that tabs into place, and that will lock all of this together. And with that locked together, I find the easiest way to do this is to temporarily move this piece. And you want to swing the wings down, and these rectangular gaps here will go over these little hooks right here. So you want to bring those in and line those up, and you kind of have to push things around a little bit because they don't line up perfectly without a little bit of flexing, but you push them down and they will clip in, and those will not move until you depress the legs and spring load everything, because what happens when you push the legs in is basically pushing the leg in will pull this out, and it causes this piece to pull back a little bit, and when it pulls back, it releases the catch on the wing. So that's how you get so much motion out of the simple the simple bit of like just flexing the legs together, because it's opening this up so now the bird head can flip forward, and also moving those tabs so the wings can flip out. And that gets B back into his B mode, and just bring the arms straight again, because what happens is if the arms aren't straightened out, these pieces here, I think they should have been attached to the upper part of the arm rather than the lower part, because when you bend the elbow, they come down and stick out more. And these can get in the way of the wings, so that's why you want to straighten those out. But like, yeah, you just do that, and bird mode. It is ridiculous, and I love it, and I'm so surprised that this can be a thing. I never realized that that was a possibility, to be able to flex this out and angle the wings like that. That just adds a whole new thing to it. It's simple, but I love it. This is a silly toy that I adore. Every time I mess with it, I seem to find something new. So yeah, I really do like this thing. And I think I need to bring the camera up a little bit more for a slightly better angle on him. But yeah, this is just a fun toy. It's not a good action figure, I'd say, but it's a fun toy. And I think this is going to look really cool if I'm ever eventually able to do any custom work on it. Size-wise, he's the exact same height, he just has wings now. So we'll bring everyone back in here. So there we've got Dinobot, O Prime, Burnout, and Samus. So he's just as big as he was before, but again, with extra stuff. Here is Bumblebee, Studio Series Bumblebee. So he's still significantly bigger than Studio Series B. And we'll bring back Power Flip Optimus Prime, but now he's fully extended and armored up. And when Prime is fully armored up, he is definitely bigger. He gets a good, like, extra inch of height because you're extending the legs, and he's got a bigger head and stuff. If you're curious what he looks like with regular Optimus, we'll just shorten the legs and flip this back around. So there's how he looks with regular Optimus. It's same height, just not armored. And finally, most importantly, here is Rise of the Beasts, Beast Mode Bumblebee with the duck tank. And that will do it for, as I said, Rise of the Beasts, Beast Mode Bumblebee. I already summed it up, but basically this is not a good action figure, but it is a really cool toy. I do genuinely like messing with this thing, even though the posability is not great. It's really satisfying on a tactile level to transform this thing and to mess around with like going between the robot and beast mode. It's fun with how the lights and sounds work and differ based on the mode that you're in. Granted, the vehicle to robot difference is because of the button you're pressing, but still, it's cool. Could definitely use some more paint. I think it's going to look cool when I get to that point eventually, maybe. But this is just fun. And as I said at the beginning of the video, I really one of my favorite things about messing with this guy is the tactile satisfaction I get from going back and forth, because when things click together, they click together. It's a very solid snap. It's kind of like how what was it, that really awful Bumblebee figure that Thu looked at, the Bumblebeans, where he, it was a terrible toy, but the way the legs closed up was a really satisfying snap and clack sound. It's like most of the transformation steps on this toy give you that sense of audio and tactile satisfaction without being attached to an absolutely terrible toy that does nothing of any redeeming value. This here is very simple, definitely not for everybody. I can't even necessarily call it good, but I enjoy the heck out of this thing. And I do think it'll look really cool with a little bit of extra paint. We'll see if I ever get around to doing that, but I do think there is something there. This is just a fun toy, as I said. And I cannot get over how surprising the wing pose, like the slight wing posability is. And I like how that just changes the angle a bit, because I've been so used to just leaving the wings straight out because I thought that's all you could do, that like this just adds an extra bit of, it makes him look more dynamic when he's standing there, even though he's not actually being dynamic. He's just as much of an almost brick as he's always been. But this is cool. This is cool. I do like this a lot, and I honestly, if this looks like something you all would enjoy, if you're watching this video and you think that actually looks kind of fun, I'd say get him, because it is fun. It's not, you know, it's not something you're going to mess around with for posing and photos and stuff, but like just transforming it back and forth, going between the modes is extremely fun. But anyway, I feel like I've reiterated a lot, so I'm going to leave it there. And hopefully the interspersed, the intercut bits with the lights and sound effects are going to work out a little bit better this time than they did with the Power Flip Optimus Prime. We'll see. But yeah, this is definitely a thumbs up from me. Not that I do any kind of rating system or recommendation or anything like that, but I just want to say, because this is something that's so easy for people to look at and be like, ew, no, it's a silly kid's toy. This is still pretty great for what it is. I would say Power Flip Optimus Prime is probably the better of the two gimmick toys, but that doesn't mean that this guy's bad. This guy has a lot of redeeming qualities all on his own that I think are really cool. But anyway, that's enough about what I think. What do you all think of Beast Mode Bumblebee here, or the Optimus Prime version? I'm personally not all that fussed about the Optimus Prime version. It was just B that grabbed my attention, but I'm curious. Whatever you all think, whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And I don't know what the next video is going to be, so it'll be a surprise when we get to it.